I grew up with it. You know, this is my country. This is my state, my city, that kind of thing. And I love my country.
At 81, the legendary Empress of Soul, Gladys Knight, isn't holding back. With a career spanning decades, she has shared the spotlight with music royalty and watched the industry evolve from within. But in a rare and candid revelation, Gladys is now opening up about the singers she couldn't stand. From backstage tension to personality clashes, some of the names on her list might surprise you. But before we dive into the drama, let's take a moment to revisit Gladys Knight's extraordinary journey. Gladys Knight was born Gladys Maria Knight on May 28, 1944, in Atlanta, Georgia, into a growing black middle-class family. Her parents, Sarah Elizabeth, a nurse's aide, and Merrill Woodlow Knight Sr., a postal worker, were both active in music. They sang in their church choir and a local choir group, creating a strong musical background for Gladys. She grew up with her sister Brenda and two brothers, Merrill Bubba Jr. and David Billy, in a home where faith and music were closely connected. From a young age, Gladys was deeply involved in gospel music. At just 4 years old, she started singing at Mount Moriah Baptist Church in Atlanta. This early exposure helped her develop a strong voice and a spiritual bond with music. When she was 7, she gained national attention after winning a televised talent show, The Original Amateur Hour, by performing Nat King Cole's Too Young. This win gave her confidence and pushed her to take music more seriously. A turning point came during her brother Bubba's 10th birthday party. When their record player broke, Gladys, her siblings, and cousins Eleanor and William Guest sang together to fill the silence. That spontaneous performance led them to form a family music group, later named the Pips, after their cousin and manager James Pip Woods. They began singing at church programs, talent shows, and clubs. Their mother believed in their potential and supported them as they grew musically. Gladys went to school in Atlanta, starting at the historic Booker T. Washington High School and later finishing at Archer High School. Even with her growing music commitments, she still managed to complete her education while performing and recording with the group. In her early years, Gladys also sang in Southern churches with the Morris Brown College Choir between 1950 and 1953. This experience helped improve her stage presence and vocal strength. The Pips began getting noticed in the late 1950s when they signed with Brunswick Records and released some singles. Although the first songs didn't become hits and the label dropped them, the group stayed determined. They used that time to sharpen their stage performances and welcome new members like Edward Patton and Langston George in 1959. Their big break came in 1961 with a cover of Johnny Otis's Every Beat of My Heart. Although it was first recorded with a small label, the song later reached a larger audience through VJ and Fury Records. It quickly climbed to #1 on the R&B chart and #6 on the pop chart. This moment confirmed Gladys Knight's talent as a lead singer and gave the Pips national attention. In 1962, Gladys briefly left the group to start a family with her husband, musician Jimmy Newman. Around the same time, Langston George also left the group. When Gladys returned, the group picked up where they left off and continued to grow with even more substance. During the early 1960s, the Pips worked with several record labels like Fury and Max, releasing songs such as Letter Full of Tears and Giving Up. While these songs made a small impact on the charts, the group used this time to shape their unique sound. With the help of songwriters like Van McCoy, they combined strong gospel-style vocals with smooth soul music. Even though they weren't yet major stars, this period helped them become a trusted and respected group in the soul music world. Their big breakthrough came in 1960 when they signed with Motown Records, a label famous for producing hit songs and building music legends. Although they had already seen some success, joining Motown took them to a new level. Their first big Motown hit, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, came out in 1967. Produced by Norman Whitfield, it sold over 2.5 million copies, reaching #1 on the R&B chart and #2 on the pop chart. The song became one of the era's most memorable hits and showed off Gladys Knight's deep, emotional singing style, winning over fans and critics. But even with their rising fame, Gladys faced some tough moments at Motown. One of the biggest challenges was her long-running rivalry with Diana Ross. The two women, both rising stars at Motown during the 1960s and early 1970s, had one of the most talked about feuds in music history. Diana Ross led the Supremes, while Gladys fronted Gladys Knight and the Pips. Although they were both successful, tension grew between them, partly due to the pressure and competition inside Motown. The feud is said to have started when Motown founder Berry Gordy, who was also romantically involved with Diana Ross at the time, invited Gladys Knight and the Pips to open for the Supremes on tour. At first, it seemed like a great opportunity, but problems started when Gladys's powerful voice and strong stage presence began to outshine Diana Ross during the shows. According to Gladys, Gordy called her and said, "I hear you're spoiling my act," meaning the Supremes. Gladys responded that they were simply performing as usual. Not long after, the group was suddenly told to end their role in the tour and return home. This moment left a lasting mark on their relationship and highlighted just how competitive and tense life at Motown could be. Behind the scenes, Diana Ross was reportedly upset by Gladys Knight's growing popularity and vocal strength. Gladys later said she was confused about why Ross seemed to resent her, especially since Diana already had the spotlight and full support from both Gordy and the label. Still, some say Ross felt insecure about her own voice and was determined to keep her position as Motown's top star. People close to the label described Ross as having a strong-willed personality, often acting like a diva. Stories circulated about her using her influence to push Gladys Knight and the Pips off tour lineups and out of shows, showing just how far the rivalry had gone. Despite the tension, Gladys Knight stayed calm and respectful when talking about the feud in public. She admitted that Diana Ross wasn't the happiest with her, but she avoided being harsh or bitter. Instead, she shared the truth with honesty and grace. The full story of their rivalry only came to light years later, when Knight opened up about it in interviews and her memoir. These personal accounts helped explain the long-standing distance between the two singers. Surprisingly, after 37 years of silent tension, Gladys Knight and Diana Ross finally made peace in 2005. Their reconciliation brought an end to one of music's longest-running feuds and allowed both women to move forward with mutual respect. But Diana Ross wasn't the only one Gladys had issues with. She also had a rocky relationship with Berry Gordy, the man behind Motown Records. While Gordy played a key role in shaping the careers of many legendary artists, including Gladys Knight and the Pips, his management style often caused friction with those under his label. Gladys and the group joined Motown in 1996, but it wasn't a decision she fully agreed with. She had concerns about signing with Motown's soul imprint, but her brother Bubba and their cousins believed it was the right move, thinking the label would give them better chances. From the beginning, though, they were treated as less important than Motown's bigger stars, like Diana Ross and the Supremes. This created an uncomfortable atmosphere and made them feel like their work wasn't truly appreciated. The tension between Gladys Knight and Motown founder Berry Gordy was more than just personal. It was also about business. Gordy was known for running the label with tight control. He made decisions about nearly every part of his artists' careers and even their personal lives. While this helped some become famous, it also led to frustration. Many artists, including Gladys, felt they weren't being paid fairly. Even though their music sold millions, they received very little in royalties. Gordy also kept control over publishing rights, meaning artists missed out on earnings they had worked hard for. This left many, like Gladys, feeling torn, grateful for the exposure Motown gave them, but unhappy with the way they were treated. In 1973, Gladys Knight and the Pips decided to leave Motown for Buddha Records. A big reason for this move was their desire for better financial deals and more creative control. Outside of Motown, their careers soared. They released hits like Midnight Train to Georgia, showing the world they could succeed on their own terms. Their departure was part of a pattern. Gordy often tried to keep artists tied to the label, but when they pushed for freedom, the fallout could be harsh. Some even described his style as sadistic, saying he was willing to damage careers if people tried to walk away. Still, Gordy defended how he ran Motown. In interviews, he claimed his strict approach was necessary to turn unknown artists into stars. He believed that even if the business side seemed unfair, it was all part of the success formula. But this view didn't match the experience of artists like Gladys Knight, who felt boxed in and unappreciated, even after making major contributions to Motown's legacy. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Another challenge Gladys faced at Motown came from the label's in-house backing vocal group, the Andantes. Although not widely known to the public, this issue caused serious tension behind the scenes. When Gladys Knight and the Pips began recording at Motown, they were surprised to find that the Andantes were often brought in to sing background vocals. In some cases, they even replaced the Pips entirely on their own tracks. This deeply upset the group, as their harmonies were a key part of their identity. Having other voices added without their knowledge made them feel pushed aside and disrespected, adding to the frustration they already had with how Motown operated. The Andantes were used regularly by Motown to create a polished and consistent sound that fit the label's style. While this was standard practice, it clashed with Gladys Knight's vision of authenticity and creative freedom. The Pips were known for their tight, family-based harmonies, and they felt their artistic voice was being ignored when their parts were removed or replaced. This led them to demand that the Andantes no longer be included on any of their recordings. They wanted full control over their music and the right to protect their own sound. This behind-the-scenes conflict reflected a larger problem Gladys faced at Motown. The label often focused on producing hits by following a set formula, sometimes ignoring the creative needs of the artists themselves. As the lead singer and public face of the group, Gladys Knight felt these compromises deeply. She wanted her music to be true to her roots and values, not just shaped to fit a commercial mold. Still, despite these challenges, Gladys Knight and the Pips thrived during their years at Motown from 1960 to 1973. They released a series of hit singles that helped define the era of soul music. Songs like The Nitty Gritty in 1968, Friendship Train in 1969, and If I Were Your Woman in 1970 climbed the R&B and pop charts. In 1972, their emotional ballad, Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye, earned them a Grammy Award, proving their lasting appeal and talent during this period. Their signature sound, with Knight's powerful, soulful vocals paired with the Pips' smooth harmonies and stage presence, won the hearts of fans across generations. Beyond chart-topping singles, they also made an impact in film. In 1974, they recorded the soundtrack for the movie Claudine, working with producer Curtis Mayfield. The project featured songs like On and The Makings of You, blending meaningful lyrics with rich, soulful melodies. This showed the group's ability to deliver music with depth and social relevance. By the late 1970s, Gladys Knight began exploring solo work alongside her performances with the Pips. Albums like Miss Gladys Knight in 1978 and Gladys Knight in 1979 allowed her to experiment with different sounds and expand her musical expression. Still, her name remains strongly connected to the group's success. Over a career that spanned more than 40 years, Gladys Knight and the Pips built a legacy that left a lasting mark on American music. Throughout her journey, Gladys Knight has received many awards and honors that reflect her powerful influence on soul, R&B, and gospel music. Often known as the Empress of Soul, she has won 7 Grammy Awards, 4 as a solo artist, and 3 with the Pips. These achievements highlight her incredible talent and the lasting mark she has made on the music world. Her Grammy journey began with nominations in the late 1960s and early 1970s for hits like I Heard It Through the Grapevine and If I Were Your Woman, which showcased her deep and emotional vocal style. In 1973, the group earned their first Grammy for the moving ballad, Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye. That same year, they won another Grammy for Midnight Train to Georgia, one of the most celebrated soul songs of all time. These wins firmly established them as leading voices in soul music. In 1986, Knight joined Dionne Warwick, Elton John, and Stevie Wonder for the charity single That's What Friends Are For, which also won a Grammy and brought her even wider recognition. In the late 1980s, Gladys Knight and the Pips continued to shine. They won a Grammy in 1989 for Love Overboard, proving they could stay relevant even as music trends changed. As a solo artist, Knight's work in gospel music was also celebrated. She won Grammys for albums like At Last in 2001 and One Voice in 2005. One Voice featured the Saints Unified Voices Choir, which she produced herself, showing her dedication to gospel and to developing new talent. Beyond the Grammys, Knight's influence has been recognized through many other prestigious awards. In '92, she received the Essence Award for Career Achievement. In '95, she was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, showing her influence in entertainment beyond music. The following year, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a major tribute to her lasting contribution to popular music. In 2005, she received the BET Lifetime Achievement Award. 2 years later, she was given the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Jazz Artist, which reflected her impact in the African American community and her ability to succeed in multiple genres. In 2007, Gladys Knight received the Society of Singers Ella Award, which formally honored her as the Empress of Soul. This title recognized her exceptional vocal talent and her importance as a cultural icon. A year later, she received the BET inaugural Best Living Legend Award and was honored at the National Black Arts Festival Legend Celebration, which acknowledged her role as a pioneer and mentor in the arts. Her lasting impact and long career were further recognized with the Soul Train Music Awards Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011 and her induction into the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2017. In 2018, Knight was honored with the Golden Plate Award from the American Academy of Achievement, recognizing her outstanding contributions to music and culture. Then in 2021, she received the National Medal of Arts, the highest award given to artists in the United States, presented by President Joe Biden. This award celebrated her artistic excellence and her lasting influence on American music. In 2022, she was named a recipient of the 45th Annual Kennedy Center Honors, one of the country's most prestigious awards for lifetime contributions to the performing arts and American culture. Knight has also received an honorary doctorate in performing arts from Shaw University, which highlights her role in music education and her impact as a role model for future artists. Together, these awards reflect the wide scope of her influence, not just as a performer with a powerful voice, but also as a cultural leader who has inspired generations and helped break barriers. Despite all these honors, Knight has not been free from controversy. In 2019, she faced criticism after deciding to perform the national anthem at Super Bowl Lacroix. This sparked debate among supporters of Colin Kaepernick, the former NFL quarterback who began kneeling during the anthem in 2016 to protest racial injustice and police brutality. Knight's decision to sing at the Super Bowl placed her at the center of a national discussion about patriotism, protest, and the responsibilities of public figures in political movements. The announcement sparked backlash on social media, especially since the game was held in her hometown of Atlanta. Critics believed that by agreeing to perform, Knight was showing support for the NFL, which they felt had treated Colin Kaepernick unfairly. Many fans saw her decision as going against the protest movement Kaepernick had come to represent. Some even urged Kaepernick to speak out against her, claiming that her performance was a betrayal of the cause. One person wrote, "Kaepernick lost his NFL career fighting for black social justice. Where is the solidarity?" Others accused Knight of becoming one of the muted artists who had turned their backs on the movement. In response, Gladys Knight released a thoughtful statement. She said she understood and respected Kaepernick's protest against police violence and injustice, but also believed that the national anthem and the fight for justice should be seen as separate issues. Knight explained that her goal was to give the anthem its voice back. She hoped her performance would help restore its power to unite rather than divide. She also pointed to her long history in the civil rights movement, mentioning that she had marched alongside key leaders and helped break down racial barriers. She reminded critics that she had been part of this struggle for much longer than many of those now speaking out about the anthem controversy. Knight's message reflected her desire to reclaim the anthem's meaning and use it to bring people together. She said, "It is unfortunate that our national anthem has been dragged into this debate when the distinctive senses of the national anthem and fighting for justice should each stand alone." She hoped that her performance would help untangle the complex truths behind both patriotism and protest and allow people to see them clearly. Her belief was that both could exist side by side, though many of Kaepernick's supporters felt her appearance at the game was a missed chance to stand in unity with the movement. The controversy highlighted deeper cultural and political tensions around the NFL's response to Kaepernick's protest. For months, the league struggled to find black artists willing to perform at the halftime show. Many declined in solidarity with Kaepernick. Gladys Knight accepted, fully aware of the backlash, but motivated by her civil rights background and belief in using her voice for good on a global stage. Despite criticism, Knight's performance was praised for its power and emotion. She ended the anthem by repeating "Brave," holding the final note to give it a heartfelt finish. Her rendition, lasting over 2 minutes, became one of the most memorable parts of Super Bowl Lacroix. Still, debate over the anthem and Kaepernick's protest continued, revealing deep public division. At just 16, Gladys Knight faced a life-changing moment. She became pregnant by her high school sweetheart, fellow musician James "Jimmy" Newman. They married in 1960 under social pressure, but tragedy soon followed. While touring with the Pips, Knight suffered a miscarriage in a hotel room, an experience that left lasting emotional scars during a pivotal time in her young life. The miscarriage happened during the demanding life of a young artist on the road. Far from home, and without the comfort of familiar support, her grief was likely magnified by the loneliness of the touring lifestyle. Yet Knight showed remarkable strength. She returned to the stage soon after, pouring her pain into her performances and continuing to build the foundation of what would become a legendary music career. This early loss also hinted at the complex and often painful nature of her personal relationships. Her marriage to Newman, though formed under pressure, became even more difficult as he struggled with substance addiction. The marriage eventually broke down, and Newman abandoned the family when Knight was just 20 years old. The emotional weight of the miscarriage, combined with the realities of young motherhood and a troubled relationship, left lasting marks on Knight's personal journey. Despite these hardships, Knight became a devoted mother. She had 2 children with Newman, a son, James "Jimmy" Gaston Newman III, born in 1962, and a daughter, Kenya, born in 1964. Knight briefly stepped away from touring to focus on raising her children. This decision showed her strong commitment to family, even while managing the pressures of single motherhood and a rising music career. The miscarriage, while a painful loss, marked a turning point that revealed Knight's resilience and her ability to overcome adversity. Her second marriage to music producer Barry Hankerson brought new challenges. Though they had a son together, their relationship was strained by both personal and professional conflicts. The marriage ended in a bitter divorce, followed by a traumatic custody battle. During that time, their son was abducted, and Knight spent more than $1 million to secure his safe return. The ordeal left lasting emotional scars and added another painful chapter to her already complex personal life. Knight's third marriage to motivational speaker Les Brown lasted only 2 years. The pressures of their careers and personal lives proved too difficult to manage together. It was her fourth marriage to William McDowell in 2001 that finally brought her a sense of peace and stability. Together, they built a loving life surrounded by a large extended family and gave back to their community by transforming a former high school into a community center. Throughout all of these personal struggles, Knight's faith in music remained her anchors. She often used music as a form of healing to process pain, grief, and the emotional weight of loss, including the deaths of close family members and the turmoil from her relationships. Her spiritual journey, which began in a Baptist household and later led her to become a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, played a major role in her healing and personal growth. Outside of her relationships, Knight also faced a difficult battle with gambling addiction that lasted more than 10 years. It began during her regular performances in casinos, where she started casually playing blackjack. Over time, the habit turned destructive. She has shared how she would lose track of time and money, sometimes gambling through the night while neglecting important responsibilities, including caring for her son. One night, she lost $60,000 playing baccarat, an experience that shocked her into realizing how serious the addiction had become. Determined to change, she turned to Gamblers Anonymous, where she found the help and support she needed to take back control of her life. Her faith was central to her recovery, and she credits divine guidance as a source of strength throughout her healing journey. Gladys Knight's son, Shanga Hankerson, also became involved in serious legal and financial troubles that strained their relationship and brought unwanted attention to her respected name. Shanga was the founder of Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles, a restaurant business launched in '97 that used Knight's name and image. Although she had no ownership in the business, she allowed her son to use her name under a formal licensing agreement. From 2012 to 2016, Shanga Hankerson failed to pay over $1 million in payroll taxes related to his restaurant business. These taxes were meant to fund important government programs, such as Social Security and Medicare. As a result of his failure to meet these obligations, federal authorities launched an investigation. In 2016, the Georgia Department of Revenue shut down 3 restaurant locations. Reports soon emerged from employees accusing Shanga of using business funds for personal indulgences. including lavish parties and substance use, instead of fulfilling his tax responsibilities. The legal case led to multiple felony charges, including theft by taking and tax evasion. Prosecutors described the situation as a racketeering operation involving false tax filings and the misuse of income, sales, and withholding taxes to maintain a luxurious lifestyle and accumulate personal assets. In response to the allegations and to protect her name, Gladys Knight took firm legal action against her son. She filed a federal unfair competition lawsuit to cancel the licensing agreement that had allowed him to use her name and image for the restaurant business. She demanded that he immediately stop using her brand and any related memorabilia. The original licensing deal had expired in 2009, though it was informally extended until tensions escalated in 2016. Shanga challenged the lawsuit, claiming that Knight was not mentally fit to cancel the agreement, and argued that he had fairly compensated her for the use of her name. He asked the court to dismiss the lawsuit and even requested that Knight pay his legal fees. The dispute quickly became public and highly emotional. Knight remained determined to defend her reputation and separate herself from the financial scandals tied to the restaurants. The legal fight eventually ended in a settlement in late 23. As part of the agreement, Shanga consented to remove Gladys Knight's name and likeness from all restaurant locations by January of the following year. The settlement also included a permanent court order barring him from using her name or misleading the public about her connection to the business. This resolution brought the years-long legal struggle to a close and allowed Knight to restore control over her brand and legacy. In the criminal case, Shanga Hankerson was sentenced in November 21 to 2 years in federal prison, followed by 1 year of supervised release. He was also ordered to pay more than $1 million in restitution for the unpaid payroll taxes. Acting U.S. Attorney Kurt Erskine made it clear that all employers, regardless of their status or family background, are responsible for obeying tax laws. Hankerson's willful neglect of those duties over several years was taken seriously. His conviction and time in prison marked a dramatic fall from grace and cast a shadow over the Knight family, serving as a reminder of the serious consequences that come with financial misconduct and legal violations. What do you think about the feuds she's had over the years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.